You've tuned into InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, a video podcast series. Our episode starts right now. Here's your host, Dominique Vale.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, where you can check in for your dose of stigma-breaking, humor-filling, motivation-loving, life hacks, and empowering tips for all of the medically adultish people in your life. I'm Dominique Vale, founder of InvisiYouth Charity, and your host for the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions. And today is Season 7, Episode 107, and today we are going to talk about one of my favorite things, fashion. You guys know it's going to be a fun episode because I love talking about clothes, so I am beyond thrilled that we have our special guest on today. She is the founder and innovator of Slick Chicks, which makes intimates, loungewear, and activewear more accessible. It's Helya Mohammadian. I'm so excited. So, immigrating from Iran to the US with her family when she was 2 years old, Helya has known firsthand what it's like to see passion through hard work, entrepreneurship, and courage, which has really instilled in her own dreams, going to New York City to study at the Fashion Institute of America and becoming a fashion designer being one of them, while working in the fashion industry, but wanting to do that with more of a deeper mission. Helya's sister then went through a life-changing C-section, and during that recovery, Helya realized that there was a void in the fashion industry for adaptive underwear and that adaptive clothing space. Thus, in 2014, Slick Chicks was created with a mission to empower individuals by making sure everyday dressing was easier for those with limited mobility so they could have a sense of self, dignity, and independence while also having that fusion of fashionable and functional in their clothing. Now, everything from underwear, bras, loungewear like camis, shorts, joggers, and hoodies, Slick Chicks has really continued to expand, even now being available in some Targets nationwide, being featured in media outlets like Pop Sugar, Forbes, and Refinery 29, just to name a few. And Helya's background is amazing. I had to just name some of them. With over 15 years of experience in product development, she's been a winner of MEA's $1 Million Change to support BIPOC business owners, Tory Burch Foundation's cohort and Spanx grantees, and just a few of the amazing accolades. So I'm so thrilled to have an expert come on to get to chat about fashion and being a powerful business owner on this episode. So Helya, welcome to the show.
Wow. Thank you. That is quite an intro. Gosh, that was all. I was like, wow, I did that. I don't even remember that. But yeah, thank you. That was such an intro. I am so honored to be here. I've been looking forward to this. Love this platform and love what you're doing. So thanks for having me on.
Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to have you on, and I'm so excited for all of our guests to get some fashion advice, learn about your backstory of being a founder, and everybody's favorite, That's So That One Time segment coming up soon, don't you worry. But I like to let everyone remind you guys that you guys have about 50 more minutes to click that subscribe button. It is, whether you're watching us on YouTube, you definitely should, or if you are listening on any audio podcast platform, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. I'll remind you again at the end. It definitely helps out our podcast show. So we are going to go into our first segment, everybody. It is Illest Superlatives. Illest Superlatives. Illest Superlatives is fun because I like to know some more accolades about our guest, and so we're going to drop some fun and kind of quirky questions on Helya and get to know her more. So, first one I'm going to ask, what is something that you never leave the house without?
Okay, definitely my phone and probably chapstick.
Oh, I like that. I'm with you on that one too.
Especially in the winter.
Oh my God, I know. We're both East Coast people, so if you're from the East Coast, you all will understand. What is your go-to drink? Is it a coffee, a tea, or something else?
It is a coffee. I'm actually holding one right now. It's a pistachio latte. Usually I make my coffee, but some days I will go and get one, and I get it from my favorite little coffee shop across the street. So very accessible.
I was gonna say, having that across the street could be dangerous for me.
It is dangerous.
I love that. If you were talking in your sleep, what do you think you would be saying most of the time?
Probably am I going to make it to that 7 a.m. Pilates class that I signed up for the night before? Or am I going to snooze? That's probably what I'm thinking.
Oh my God, I love that. What would be a dream celebrity you would want to wear Slick Chicks?
Ooh, okay. So, dream celebrity. So, I love Amy Purdy. She's
Mm,
a Paralympic athlete. I've been following her journey for so long. So, I would probably pick Amy. One that we've kind of worked with, but not like official that loves our products is Selma Blair. So,
nice.
I would eventually like to do some sort of partnership collab with
I
her.
like
So,
that. I
yeah.
like that. We're manifesting. We're going to manifest
Yes,
that. I love that.
totally believe in manifesting.
I
Yes.
love that. If you could have a second home anywhere, where would you like it to be?
Oh, Italy, hands down.
Oh.
Went for the first time last year and completely fell in love.
Ooh.
Was really depressed when I came back, actually. I was there with my family. So, yeah, if I could just pick up and live anywhere, it'd be Italy.
The full Italian in me appreciates that answer. Number
Oh,
one. Yep. And
yes.
my sister as well went there for her honeymoon. She went, I need to go to the motherland. I need to visit where we're
Oh
from.
my God, the culture, the food,
Yeah.
all of the above.
I love that so much. Are you a phone talker, a texter, or a voice noter? Where are you on the spectrum?
Okay. I am a FaceTimer, so
Oh,
any of my friends know, and I know it's very intrusive, but I don't like talking on the phone. I need to see people's faces. And my friends know that when I call them, it's going to be a FaceTime. And a lot of people aren't down with that, but yeah, I basically talk to like my parents every day, and if I don't FaceTime and I call my mom, she's like, "What's wrong? Why
yeah.
aren't you FaceTiming me?" You know.
I love
So
that. Oh
yeah.
my God. I love that so much. What is one song that you will always find yourself either singing in the car or probably on a commute instead or in the shower? What's your like go to?
Okay, this changes a lot. So I'm really into Chapel Rowan right now. So I'm
Okay.
obsessed with like Pink Pony Club, but I also am a Swiftie. I'm sorry, but I'm not sorry. I love Taylor Swift. I saw her in concert for the first time last year. So anything Taylor Swift, and I actually am just a new fan. So right
Ooh,
during
okay.
COVID, I started listening to her music. Never was a fan. So I'd say anything Taylor Swift, anything Chapel Rowan, or I'm also probably very much older than you. So I don't know if you know Stevie Nicks from Fleetwood Mac.
Duh.
Love yeah,
Okay.
Landslide. Love
Yep.
that song.
Oh, give me a Fleetwood Mac moment. Are you kidding? I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh my God, for sure. What is one staple in your closet that if people would say, like, oh, this is Helya style, what would they always put you in?
A black oversized blazer. I literally have two hanging on my closet door right now. So that is my staple. It's like my go-to. And I think I've had the same black blazer from like Zara for the last 10 years and it like never goes out of style.
Oh, I was going to say that is a classic. So I appreciate
Yeah.
that. What is one fashion trend that you have wanted to try?
One that I would want to try, but I don't think would look good on me is like neon colors.
Ooh, okay.
Sometimes I like see people wearing these like really like cute like lime green crop tops and like they're baggy oversized jeans and I'm like I could pull that off and then like no I shouldn't I shouldn't be wearing that. I
I
am
love
too
that.
old for that.
No, no, my God. The color would just do something to my skin tone that would probably not be
Same,
great. I was
same.
gonna
I
say,
think
oh my
yeah.
God. Are you a morning bird or a night owl? I feel like you might have answered this already.
Yes, I am definitely a morning bird. I look forward to like taking my walk in the morning, getting coffee, or just taking a walk. It's kind of like my meditation before I like dive into emails. So
Mm,
that's my happy place. I do love nights. Like I will binge a show and stay up all night. Like I am also a homebody, so I love
yeah.
like just being at home. Gosh, I hope this doesn't sound too boring, but yeah, morning all the
Literally. I
way.
love that. And I'm a homebody. This actually goes into my next question. What would be a favorite character of yours that you would want to then go be friends with? Pick off of a binge show you've had.
Ben show would be Friends.
Oh, good.
Character that I loved was Rachel Green because I don't know if you remember, like I loved Friends, so I watched every single episode. Um, a lot of my friends have never seen it. I'm like, how? When were you born? But I like her character. I think because she kind of like transformed from this like snobby, like like rich girl woman to this like empathetic person in the end of the show. And it was like very emotional. And I don't know, I just love it. And it's funny because I think back at like one of the episodes when she was celebrating her 30th birthday, and I thought, oh my God, that's so old. And now I'm like, I'm so close to my 43rd birthday, and I'm just like, how did I think that was old? you know? But yeah, Friends would be it. Or actually, I have a movie one. Elle
Good.
Woods,
Oh, I mean,
Legally
classic.
Blonde.
Classic. That is a classic. I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah, that's
And
a good one.
and then last question would be, if you could add a new product or new color to Slick Chicks, what would it be?
Oh, I love the color green, like emerald
Okay.
green. We've
Ooh.
never done anything in green, and I think that kind of like color in the fall would be really I don't know. I feel like it would be a really bold color. So,
I like
yeah,
that.
maybe we'll do that. Look out for that.
I like that. We will, and I volunteer if you need someone to, try it on. I would be
I
more than
I
happy.
feel like emerald would be your color actually. Like I'm seeing you in this maroon, and I'm
Hmm.
like, oh, I feel like those like color tones would work well on your skin. So
I
we
volunteer to
we
test. I
yes, we
volunteer.
we might have just like stumbled upon something
I
here.
love that. I volunteer. I love them so much. All right. That was a lot of fun. We're going to go into our next segment real soon. But something else that I think is a lot of fun is our InvisiYouth charity shop, because we have our subtle activist color block bracelets on there. You guys will see them. They're behind me. I am wearing a couple on my wrist as well. They are our handmade bracelets by our volunteers that are accessible to wear, different sizes, and they are made for all of you, with 100% of every sale going directly towards funding all of our free resources and programs for teens and young adults living with chronic illness and disability. It's all about subtle activism for us. Like we say, it's that Starbucks cup left in the Game of Thrones scene. We love to spark a bit of curiosity before getting that activism moving. So our subtle activist color block bracelets are exactly for that reason, to get you guys to raise awareness in a subtle way for the young adult chronic illness and disability space. So we have our link exclusively for our Etsy page on the screen and in our description and show notes. If you're able to buy a bracelet or encourage someone else to do so, it's $4, free global shipping, and it's basically getting a bracelet and making a donation. So it's a win-win. So if you are able to do that and visit our Etsy page, we thoroughly appreciate it. It definitely helps us out so much, and you get a little piece of InvisiYouth along the way. So now we're going to go into one of my favorite segments, Break That Glass Ceiling.
Break that glass ceiling.
We love talking about how somebody has taken their passion and mission and gotten a conversation going and breaking that metaphorical glass ceiling on these under-discussed topics so we can learn more. So with Helya, we are going to be leaning into her boss lady background and getting to learn how to be more confident, being that ally, and getting to empower others. So you're going to want to time mark this segment and take some notes, guys. So what I wanted to ask first is, having graduated from FIT and wanting to always work in fashion, then kind of switching gears and creating Slick Chicks for you, how is it that you still were embracing like your original passion of working in fashion, and then now kind of steering into something that was going to have a bigger mission and building into a different community? Like, how did you keep your original passion for it and then kind of switch gears into something that would be so much bigger?
Yeah, I actually really love this question. So I I mean, for as long as I can remember, as long as I could pick up like a pencil, I loved to sketch and draw like collections and lines. And I think my parents still have like some of the like swimsuits I designed when I was like 7, I think. But I've always loved fashion, and I think I've always loved it not for the way that it made you look, but for the way that it made you feel. And so that's always kind of been, I guess, ingrained in me. And that's something that was always important to me. I knew that I wanted to be in fashion because it made people feel confident. And, when you look good, you feel good in your skin, right? And that kind of like sets the tone for the day. So, going to school, fast forward from childhood, going to FIT, it was like a big dream of mine, to really live in New York and work at some of these fashion design houses and work, at Bergdorf Goodman. And so I learned a lot about fashion, and then but I also kind of knew what I didn't want to do. I didn't want to be in this cutthroat, world where it was about just about like, you know, how you looked in these clothes and how, expensive these were. Everything felt like very like unattainable. It wasn't like accessible, and I just wasn't fulfilled. I remember, I think it was way before my 30th birthday, but I remember like calling my parents, and I worked as a personal shopper at Bergdorf, and I was miserable. I mean, that's only miserable because it wasn't what I wanted to do. I didn't really want to dress people. And I remember like walking through Central Park, calling my dad, crying and saying, this isn't what I want to do with my life. Like, I want to do something that's more impactful and that makes a difference and that really matters. And this isn't it for me. And I remember like putting my notice in, and all my managers at Bergdorf saying, this is everyone's dream job. What are you doing? And I was like, it's not for me. But, and then a few short time later, I ended up, getting the idea for Slick Chicks and like starting the company in my apartment like 12 years ago. But, I've always I guess this is a long-winded way to say that, fashion has always been how, it makes you feel for me. So I guess that's always been important. It's never been for me like, oh, just the looks. I think it's also like the purpose of it and how it makes you feel. So hopefully that answers the question.
No, it does. It does. I like that because it takes something that was very kind of unique and singular to you that you always knew you wanted, but then having the experience, you were able to kind of tease out the parts of the fashion industry that weren't going to work for you. So when this kind of moment of time happened in your life and in your family's life, it just sort of opened this avenue for you. And then obviously that snowballed into something so much bigger and more than probably what the initial goal even was at that point too. Because even from that, how have you, being someone who owns this company who doesn't have a chronic illness or disability, but you connect with so many people, you have so many models who are in that community and they're giving you feedback and you're dressing with them and for them in that space. Is there something that you've really learned from them, from watching them and use your products and come back to you as customers that you kind of take with you as you continue to grow and expand?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So just to take it back a little bit. So when I first started the company, I started it from a personal place, like seeing my sister, trying to recover from like a post, surgery, like C-section, something very routine for, a lot of women. And she felt debilitated for a while. And so something as simple as like putting on her underwear was a challenge. So that was like my initial like thought when I started the company was how do I create a product for someone that's like in this situation, like my sister who doesn't have a permanent disability. And that is, I guess ignorance is bliss at sometimes. But I had no idea that there was this entire like marginalized group of society, like no access to actual like adaptive clothing, because at that time there wasn't really adaptive clothing. Everything was very medical and very I would say like it looked like products that were made decades ago and not innovated, and adult diapers and whatnot. So it wasn't until I started the company that I realized that there was a much greater need. And that is my first like realization that there were, people with chronic illnesses and disabilities various mobility challenges that didn't have accessible clothing. And a lot of people that were like hacking things, making things that would work for them, whether they were a wheelchair user or excuse me, a wheelchair user, or whether they use a catheter or a port, like there wasn't a real solution out there. So I immediately, I think I connected to this on a much deeper and bigger level. And it became more, for me, it was more about how do I like serve this community, and not more like really, I mean, it's a business, but I wasn't thinking like, oh, this is going to be like the next Spanx. I was just thinking people need this. I didn't realize that it wasn't just a niche, that it was much greater. And, 1 in 3 people know somebody with a disability. There's like 1 in 5 people in the world that have a disability. So it's like, there's this huge need for it, and it's been overlooked for so long. So I immediately like started focusing on our mission and like just really tapping into that that greater need for the product. And the product stayed the same. I mean, we iterated the product, but the use of it was still the same. It could be for someone who had just had, a C-section. It could be for someone who is aging, which is essentially all of us at some point in our lives. Or it could be someone that has a permanent disability and is learning to adapt later in life, So I was seeing that there were so many different uses for the products. And I think just like listening to people's feedback and their needs was really important for me. And like to kind of like step back and really take that feedback was important. We had initially, like, we were bootstrapped very, very early on for a long time. So when I launched a crowdfunding campaign, I don't know if you've heard of Kickstarter, but I raised like $20,000 through friends and family and pre-orders to do a sample run. And the people that were pre-ordering the products were wheelchair users and people that had different, various disabilities. And so I was learning a lot, and I kind of just like went, full focus into how can I make products that are more accessible and get this to be more mainstream. So that was like really just like tapping into the community and tapping into like, okay, like I need to talk to the people that actually need the product, because I don't have a disability. So it was really just like listening was a big part of it, and learning. So I'd say listening, leaning in, learning, and surrounding myself by these incredible people, being an advocate. And that really helped me like really, I guess, get in touch with what we were doing more, and not just creating a product, but it was something much larger than that. It's this community that we have just seen grow right in front of our eyes. It's incredible. And, some of our ambassadors, we started out with them when they weren't even micro influencers. They were just like dabbling in the space. And then now they're these big, huge, influencers. And it's like, oh my God, we're so proud and happy. And like, they're big supporters of ours. But yeah, it just feels like a family,
Yeah. I love how you said that too, because something, especially being kind of the last question I was going to even ask you too, it taps into that, is being someone who is a founder, even more so being a female founder, that interest of listening to your community and, like you said, leaning in, asking them questions, even though you're the one in charge. There can be that sort of worry of, I'm the one that's in the driver's seat. So you don't want people to think that you're asking questions or you don't know certain topics, because you are the one that's sort of at the helm, but to lead with that curiosity of wanting to make sure you're making everything correctly for them and in their interests, or what's frustrating them or not in what they use, I think actually shows a lot more strength as somebody in charge, because you're interested in asking those questions and you're not worried of what somebody might think of that, which was that was a biggest piece of advice I even got when I started my charity, was you're never bothering anyone. You're persistent and you ask questions because you need to learn faster. It's better to learn on the job than learn from the mistake because you just wouldn't do it. So I love that you said that was just sort of a knee jerk for you, was to be curious and lean into that and learn from people so quickly.
Don't assume,
Don't assume, yes. When you assume.
Yeah. Don't assume. Yeah.
I love that. But even kind of the last thing I wanted to ask too was being a founder, like I said, and being a woman who's a founder and starting at a young age, a company, what would be something that you, now looking back, were like, oh, this would have been a really good piece of advice I would give other young people, young women who want to start their own companies or platforms?
Oh gosh, this is loaded. I feel like I could go on. Well, okay. So one piece of advice I would say, if I could tell my past self, is to have more confidence, because that is something that I've struggled with now. And imposter syndrome is real. I know we like hear that term so often, but if you believe in something, and you have the passion and the drive, go for it, regardless of what anyone says. I had so many people say, from investors to like close family members, like, what is this product? Why would anybody need this? It doesn't make any sense. And I knew in my gut, I was like, that I have to keep doing this. Like, I know the potential of this, even though there's not a market. And so it was just like having that confidence and not second guessing yourself. I wish, I was also naive, so that served me well in the past. I did take risks.
Yeah, very same.
Yeah, so I would just say, like, make sure that you have a good support system around you that can help uplift you and boost your confidence, because a lot of times, like, not a lot, but I mean, it is entrepreneurship is lonely and messy and hard, and there's a lot of like, sleepless nights and emotions, but it's also super rewarding on the other side of it, especially if you have something that is, like social impact. So yeah, I would just say, like, be your biggest cheerleader, as tough as it gets some days, because that probably would have helped me. I definitely doubted myself a lot, and sometimes still do. And I think that's normal for any founder.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I agree with all of that. I think that's a really good point for people, like you said, to, even if you can't be your biggest cheerleader, surround yourself with the people who will do that for you, because they don't have to understand, but they know that you're chasing a dream that you see that potential in, and that they can kind of rally around you and be those sounding boards, because like you said, it is such an independent thing to do. So to have people that can be like that echo chamber to you and bounce it off of is helpful, because other times, similar even to myself, you're sort of sitting alone going, should this be our resource? Should this be our resource? And there's nobody to talk to, being like, what do you think, Wall?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I have no idea who to ask. So it is great, like you said. Yeah, I love that very much. It's a good ending point to end the segment on. And it leads us into our favorite segment. Everybody, don't worry, we're getting to So That One Time. Hold on. But before we do, I always like to thank everybody for listening and watching InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, because it is our first resource that we brought into our digital resource package. Now we have 5 resources that come out every month for free for teens and young adults living with chronic illness and disability, so that you guys can have tangible digital resources that you can use independently to thrive in your daily living, so you can adapt to excel with any chronic illness or disability. So we always put our donate link up on the screen and in our description and show notes, because 100% of every donation goes directly towards all of our resources that we provide for free every month. So if you are able to donate or share that donate link to somebody you care about in support of this amazing young adult community, we thoroughly appreciate it. It helps keeps our resources for free and keeps them coming every month, so we can do more things like this show and all our other resources. So it definitely helps us so much. So we really appreciate it if you are able to donate and just pay it forward. So now we're going to go into our favorite segment, and the second half of the show, we are doing So That One Time.
So that one time.
You guys know it is everyone's favorite time because A, I get to take a break from chit-chatting and our guests get to tell us a life story. So Helya, it is your time. The floor and mic are yours.
Okay, so bear with me through this story. It actually happened. So this one time, I think I thought it would be fun to do a reality couples show with my at the time ex, who I'm still very good friends with. But yeah, we were together for 15 years and engaged for, I want to say, like half of that. And at the time, I had been on this other show called Thunderdome with Steve Harvey. It was like this um, competition show, and that's a whole other story. But anyway, the producers were like so intrigued by my story, and they're like, "We really think that you would be great on this show on the OWN network, Oprah's network." And I was like, "Oh my God, that sounds amazing. A couple
Say no
show."
more.
And
Say no more.
yeah, I was thinking, oh my gosh, a weekend away in like this cute little like bed and breakfast with spa treatments. And so I was telling my partner at the time, and he's like, absolutely not. Don't want to do this. No way. And I was like, it's going to be amazing. We're going to get picked up in our apartment and we're going to go to this like really cute little like, cottage by Hudson Valley. It's going to be great. So talked him into it, went there, and it wasn't like the spa treatments that I thought. It was like 24/7 of producers being in your face for the whole weekend and like getting really like down and dirty with like, let's diagnose and like dissect your relationship. So it was actually there's a point to this story. I think and this might be more for like, in some cases it does relate to like being a founder. It's like sometimes reality isn't what you think it's going to be,
Yeah.
So just like being in the business, you kind of have to just like go with the flow. And that is something in my life that happened that I'm still like, I cannot believe I did that. But I had fun with it. And I think that's kind of also like, you kind of have to just laugh and have fun and make fun of yourself. And that's something in my life that I'm like, I can't believe I did that. And I think there might still be like footage online, and I shouldn't tell you that, but it was definitely something in my life. Yeah, I know. That I would probably never do again. But my ex was a very good sport about it. And it really was just like, reality isn't always what we think it is. I've learned that in business too. So yeah, that's probably a very crazy time in my life, but I thought that would be a fun one to share because I haven't shared that with really a lot of people.
I love that. Hey, the single woman in me thoroughly appreciates that you gave it a try.
It could have been a binge-worthy show, but thank God it's not.
I love that. Hey, I will full disclose, when I was in high school, our high school newspaper almost became a season 2 of a potentially an MTV reality show, but the show didn't get picked up. So was hindsight now, very happy it didn't happen. But at the 17-year-old in me, we all thought it was great. So
I probably would have watched it.
It was something. It was very interesting emailing and, like you said, talking to producers and, can you film this so we can see this and talk to people about it? And we were all going, this is starting to not sound like we're talking about journalism. So.
Right. I know. Like the world of reality and social media, right?
Oh my gosh. No, I will stick to the podcast and charity world for sure.
I'm going to stick to my business and no more shows.
Love that. I love that so much. Oh my God. Well, we're going to go from the reality world to the ideal world in our final segment. So we're going to switch gears and talk with Helya in an ideal world. In an ideal world, we know we are often trying to improve society and change stigmas and make the world a better place and more inclusive. So with Helya, we are really going to be talking about that with slick chicks and specifically all those massive boulders of going into accessible fashion and being in the fashion industry, of having to make that impactful representation even more visible to so many people. So the one thing I wanted to kind of even tap on too is bringing diversity to a fashion brand and kind of tapping into all types of diversity is super important. I know that's something so phenomenal that Slick Chick does. So for you, how has that been really important in continuing to really push for the kind of multifaceted diversity that your brand has for its models and the types of products? You touch on so many different areas of that to make it so accessible and inclusive of people.
Yeah, I mean, like it's really important because, it's not just about the product for us. It's definitely like the functionality behind it, but I also believe that it's how it makes you feel. And it's also people who have disabilities want to feel seen and heard, and they want to feel dignified and confident and independent. And so like that's what our products do. So it's more than just the design. I think it's really same that you're doing. You're offering these resources, you're building a community, you're bringing people together. And so I think that's more important than anything, and we need that nowadays. And so and we talked about it before, it's leaning in on the community and leaning in on those people that really need these products. So representation and is so important for us and marketing. And so when we, launch in a new retailer, or we've recently just launched in store, but for us, it's like, okay, we really want to showcase that we are a diverse brand, that we believe in inclusion, and that needs to be present in like everything that we do. And sometimes we don't get it right all the time, and we make mistakes, and I'm the first to own up to it. But we're still learning along the way. And I think part of that is like including people with disabilities in the conversation, and not just like, having the conversations one thing, but bringing them to the table, and working with them, working alongside them is really important. And it's definitely, really like something that we value as a company.
Yeah, no, I love that too. It allows you want to like, in a way, like double tap on the brands that bring beyond just showcasing the diversity or inclusivity, but ask the questions and allow that feedback as well, and bring it, like you said, it's multifaceted of not just who you're designing for, but who then is modeling for you, and then who then's giving that consumer feedback. And so, like you said, kind of filling it in different layers is really important. And also being willing to always, no matter how many years go by, always be like, oh, we can grow here a little more now, and we can grow here a little more. And wanting to do that, I think, is really important. And even kind of going off of that too, something I always really loved when you go on Slick Chick's website is that you have that how it works section on the website for like every product, which I think is wonderful, because there's so many types of making it accessible or making fashion functional, and showcasing that to people, that there's all these different ways, so people can actually think of, how can I make this fashionable product functional for me? So how have you felt like with what you want to do with Slick Chicks, and how it has been for people, that you want to kind of break that stigma that functionality doesn't mean fashionable, that for you guys fusing that together is a primary goal?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they fashion and function can go hand in hand, and we've shown that. And I think there has been this whole stigma around like disability and not being like, you can't be sexy and be disabled. And so like for us, it was very much like, okay, we want people to feel good in these clothes. We don't want people to feel like I'm only wearing this product because I have a disability, and I see a lot of brands out there that really, I almost feel like, they're in the adaptive space, but they kind of like keep themselves in that niche, and it's not a niche, it's much larger than that. And there's, even the word adaptive can sometimes just kind of like keep it, confined. And a lot of people
Yeah.
don't even know what adaptive means. I've
Means,
asked
yeah.
so many people along, this journey, like, do you know what adaptive clothing is? And so there's still a lot of education around it. And, I think there's a lot of trial and error, but I think it's important um, for us to make this so much more like the norm and not like a specific category of clothing. And we're trying to work towards that. And it's been also a hand-holding process with a lot of our retailers because they're understanding and learning, like their merchandising teams are learning, like, is this working? What do we need to do better? Are we actually making it harder for our customers to find the products? Are we making it accessible? And so there's a huge learning. This is this is obviously an expanded market, but it hasn't been around for so long. And that's wild to even think that, 10 years ago, this wasn't like an area that people were, focused on in design. And it should have been. So, although we're further along, we still are just scratching the surface. So I think it's important that, like, yes, it's a functional product, but it is also sexy. It makes people feel empowered, and that's important too. Like the, aesthetics of our branding and our design is, very much like, for us, we wanted something that was timeless, classic, basic staples in your closet, things that when you put them on, you're not like, you don't feel like you're wearing something that's adaptive per se.
Yeah.
So I think, the functionality is a big part of it, but you can have a functional product that's still fashion forward. And a lot of companies don't really dabble in that because they think it's either too expensive or too hard to source. And I've been in this world of sourcing and manufacturing for a very long time, and I've learned a lot. And it's not too expensive to make clothing that's accessible. It can happen, and we're a prime example of that. And so I think that more companies need to kind of like get on that train, because it's like left the station, and we're like full force going into trying to be more mainstream, because more people need this product. More people need to know about products like this. And when people are like, oh my gosh, I didn't know this existed, I'm always like, oh my gosh, like, we need to get this out there more. People need to know that there's options out there, that there's clothing that can help them, independently change or help their caregiver or family member, So when people stumble upon us, it's a really great feeling. And so that's just, we're fully focused on just getting that out there more.
Yeah, no, I love that. Like you said, it is people kind of taking away the fear of the unknown, because it is, unless you're in the space, certain terms that you use or what would be more functional for people. There's so many people without a chronic illness or a disability or a mobility issue that just in general be like, I really would love to put on a bra that's easier to put on for me in general. And then
my mom
finding
my
that
mom,
like,
right.
In general. So to just realize, like you said, be you on your end being willing to kind of handhold for the merchandiser of showing them how to explain it and showing them how to market it, in a way also takes away the fear of the unknown for them, that they think they're tapping into something so unheard of, which for them it might be, but to allow them to know, like, you're going to tap into a whole market of people that are just really hungry for fashionable product that they can then explain and express more. I think that's really, it's nice for you to kind of be able to do that for those that are in more mainstream marketing and merchandising, because it allows them to know that they can kind of bring in a whole new market of people and enjoy what is there, and let them be curious to see if they can find it elsewhere or ask for it elsewhere. And it kind of goes into my last question I wanted to ask. If you could give one piece of advice to the Helya that started Slick Chicks, what would that be versus the Helya in 10 years who's still running? What would you want her to still kind of keep as a momentum and a pillar for her moving forward?
Well, as it relates to my business, I think a pillar for what I'm doing is like for me to for me, but for everybody to realize that like, you know, adaptive clothing, accessibility, this isn't like a niche. This is something that, you know, everyone in their lives um, deserves to have, like
Mm,
accessibility. And anybody in their life can become disabled at any point, you
yeah.
know. Also, like we're all aging, and if we're lucky, we get to lead, you know, lives where we live very long. And I think as we're aging, you know, we're living longer, and we want more accessibility, and I see that. And so I think that, you know, it's not a one size fits all. You know, this whole process is, you know, it's definitely a learning process. But yeah, I think that's one thing. And if I could, I guess, give myself some sort of advice for, gosh, when I was like the Helya of 10 years ago, for what's
Yeah.
going to happen in the future. I don't know if I'm answering this the right way, but
Yeah.
um, it is a it is a bumpy road, and it's not an overnight success. I am proof of
Mm,
that. I've been doing this business, or working on this business, excuse me, for over a decade. And, you know, we just launched in brick and mortar with Target last year, which was like a huge moment for the
mm,
company, for us. And so that that doesn't happen overnight, and just to be patient.
mm.
And even though sometimes it feels like you're crawling, you're moving forward, and to just trust the process. So that is what I would say.
I love that. It's always patience isn't just a virtue, it's a skill you need to sharpen, definitely.
Yes, I love that.
So,
Exactly.
yes, so it is somebody who's coming up on their 10-year anniversary as well. I
Yes,
appreciate the reminder.
congrats.
Thank you. I appreciate the reminder. I will be reminding myself of that this summer as well. But I love that. That's something I think a lot of people can kind of take away from with anything that they're doing. And it's such a good note to end on. And I literally can't believe we just like flew by an entire podcast episode. And I want people to be able to find you and Slick Chicks online and on social media. So where can everybody find you and Slick Chicks?
Sure. So you can find us online at slickchicksonline.com. You can find us on a lot of retailers too. So just look up Slick Chicks in Target, CVS, Aries, just to name a couple of stores. But we're also on social media. We share a lot of really cool stories, and um, it's a really lovely community that is very family oriented, and it's a safe space. So find us on social. We're at Slick Chicks Online. I also am dabbling into posting. My team is like, you need to put more out there. So you can find me also on social media at Helya Mohammadian. So just a few ways to tap into what we do.
I love that. And I will have all of that linked in our description and show notes so you can find Slick Chicks and Helya as well. And also, you can find InvisiYouth on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at InvisiYouth, and our podcast on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Make sure if you are listening or watching, you click that subscribe button before we end today. Give it a thumbs up, a 5-star rating. You know, I hear the other stars don't work. All of that's very helpful for us. And again, truly, Helya, I had so much fun getting to chat with you. It was like having a nice afternoon break with a friend. So I had so
Oh,
much
me
fun.
too.
And
Thank
it's
you.
going to
Thanks for
I'm
having me
so,
on.
of course. Thank you so much for being on the show. And I will speak to all of you very soon. Chat soon, everybody.